Good morning, it's Archie here, and I am here to tell you about my experience with Oren Klaff's Pitch Anything. I am a little bit surprised by the amount of reactions that came on my story. What happened was that I wrote a little thing about it, and then a couple of people asked me, and she said, Curie, you need to write a bigger story about this because people are interested, and just throw it out there. So I thought, okay, I'll do it. So in 5 minutes, I just wrote that story down and forgot it. And then all of a sudden, I got a lot of reactions on it, and people really asking me to go on about it. And Peter Sage reacted, and Brian told me to make it a long video. So here I am making a long video, which probably is like 20 minutes or so. I have this. And that's the scenario. So I wrote a little scenario of what I'm going to say. It's 3 pages long. I hope everybody will bear with me. But I think the information will benefit some of you, if not many of you. At least some nuggets are in here that I think are takeaways that you can. And if you then look at the Oren Klaff, I only looked at the first one. So if you looked at the Oren Klaff episode, then take a little bit of this with you, and then you're set to go. Because remember, Oren Klaff pitches venture capitalists to get a shitload of money. Now, there is also the smaller fry, where you may be just pitching for a job, or a part in a play, or your music. So, or your poems, whatever you're doing, and that's maybe smaller, but then still this applies. Only there's some other elements you can put in there, sort of soften it up. Because Oren, do not forget, Oren is a bloody genius. If you noticed, if you look at the number, I did not look at number 2 yet, because I didn't want to dilute my message today with the second part, because I only looked at the first one. But if you then look at how he pitches on the fly, London Real, that is nothing close. That's just genius. That's so well done. Now maybe he says he does nothing on the fly, so maybe he studied on it before he went on the show. But then still, great timing. Oren, chapeau. Okay, now let's go. I'll start with. So I have to read it off this because it's just too short notice to, but that doesn't matter. I'm just trying to help you guys. Yeah, one disclaimer. What I'm going to tell you works for me. Say it works for me a lot of the time, but not all of the time. So I lose pitches, right? So maybe I lose more pitches than I win. But I do know that since I use this, I win more than I used to, if you get what I mean. So my win grade is going up. Also, I feel more confident since I'm doing this. And now that I incorporated some of his Oren's nuggets, so to say, it's even working better. At least it did on Friday when I was pitching at a really big bank. Now, number 2 disclaimer is this works for me in the country I'm at. See, because I'm in the Netherlands. And the Netherlands is a very liberal, socialistic, flat country. And the corporate structure here is very flat also. This means that the CEO can have lunch right next to me, and I can call him Bob. And I said, Bob, what did you do this weekend? And Bob will tell me, well, Archie, I went sailing, or I went to soccer class. Great, Bob. Well, Bob, have a nice lunch. I'm going. And that will be the CEO, right? That is the corporate structure here in Holland. Now, there are countries where that does not go that way. It's more hierarchy. And that's where, you would not have lunch with the boss at the same level. The boss would be at another level with the other bosses, or the CEO, or the CIO, or CXO. And so, for me, it works in Holland. Very important, so you have to sort of put your sauce over it for wherever you are, right? That's one big important thing to take notice of. because the rules of conduct, right, in Holland or in Germany or maybe in the United States or in Indonesia or in India or in Russia or wherever you are in the world are different. So do sort of pivot from there. I'm going to talk a lot about preparation because I think Oren also tells you this in the video. You have to prepare. Do not wing it. You have to practice your pitch before you actually perform it. You're an actor. You're acting. You're selling you, right? Like he says, you sell yourself. You're selling your idea, but you're also selling yourself. And one very big element of this, and we'll get into this in more detail later on, is the storytelling of the whole thing. You have to see it as a sort of a movie or a little sketch, and you're the protagonist. So we'll talk about the whole storytelling thing later on. They're on the board, and I have two great examples of how they do it and what their method is and how you can use it for your own benefit. And Peter Sage reacted also to my little story that Olive asked me to do. And he said something great, because he said, intention, commitment, dedication, and execution. Now you have a framework, and it's only a matter of time. Keep flying, and that's exactly it. It's the framework. So you need to build your own framework. Now, I already had one, and because of Oren, I upgraded it. So I polished it. It went from silver to gold or from bronze to silver, but it went in way better. And I noticed that because of the reactions. And where I was pitching Friday, that was not a small fry. They had a lot of people came by already. So they already were sort of saturated with people coming over and pitching. And because I had that framework and because I had the clarity of mind to think, hey, wait a minute, if they're saturated with the way people are coming in, maybe I should do something very differently. Right? So, but I'll come into that later also. I'm going to show you exactly what I did. So I have my pitch deck here, and I'll show you how I did it. And I'll you can you can take something out of it, or you can maybe think, well, this is stupid, I'm not going to do any of this. And I'm going to do it my own way. Well, that's fine also. So I was at a pitch in at a big bank. And I got contacted by a recruiter from England. He asked me to go there because it would be something really, really interesting for me. Now, like I said, I already heard that was a very high-profile job and very interesting, very high salary, and that this bank is, let's say, the best bank to work for if you're in UX, because the CEO there has CX as its focus. So that's always great. So they're building that out. And that's the best time you want to be somewhere when they're expanding, right? So everything goes, and it's sort of a blank area where you can have you have a carte blanche, almost. That's my specialty. Yeah, if I got a carte blanche, I can build something marvelous. And so I came there, and I already indeed asked around before I came there. I heard of it, and then I know, I'm not going to be the only one there. A lot of people from my background, with my background, are going to go for that job also, so or role. And I asked around in preparation to see who I knew also did that. And there were two people I found who had been there. And they told me that it's extremely difficult to get into. So they actually are the ones who told me that they felt the people on the other side of the table felt saturated with how things went. So I thought, my goodness, I have to do this differently, right? And then the Oren Klaff show came on, and then Brian made a remark about flip-flops and Sequoia. And I thought, my goodness, I got to do that also. Not in flip-flops and a bathrobe, but I really have to go there and do something different. So what I did, I'll show you later on. That's right there. What I did, I'll show you right now. So what I did was I dressed up nicely. So I was actually wearing exactly this. So I put this on today so to show you that I was wearing this. Chair, get out of the way. I was wearing this. So that's very nice you know, it was Friday, so I wore jeans and it's fine, and I wore this jacket on top, and it's very, you know, looks fancy. But what I took along was this. I had this, all my stuff, and it's still in there, in here. This is a grocery bag with a stupid commercial, what is it, an ad on it, and it's like, it doesn't make sense, this and this. So what you would expect is a nice little leather bag or anything like that, what people come in with. But I wanted to do the bathrobe and flip-flop thing. So, so this is what I had. And there's a nice story to it, actually, if somebody would ask about it. But they didn't. They just went like, okay, he's got a bag with him. So that's what I had with me. Those were my flip-flops and bathrobe. And I already pitch as long as I can remember. I know that when I was 16 or 17, somewhere around there, oh, that's a long time ago, I had, in the city where I lived, I already had a sort of a company. I was studying, and we were poor. And my mom really couldn't pay for what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an archaeologist. And I was 17, so I first had to do, you know, I still had a lot of years to go, and that's a lot of money. And we didn't have that money, actually. So I got across graffiti, and I started doing graffiti. And we were the first ones, actually, and in the area. There were only people in Amsterdam who were doing it a year before us, but we didn't know about those. And because we were the only ones, the city of The Hague, the council, they came to us, they found us, and they asked us if we would work for them, fixing up or making the city more pretty. So what the city always had, downtown city, was these blinds they put down at night so that robbers can't smash the windows or whatever, right? So that safety. But others would always tag those. So the downtown area looked very messy. So The Hague decided to do something about it. And they hired me and a friend, we were together, to sort of paint flowers on them or ads or whatever. And for every blind that we made, we got money, quite a lot. And also they asked us at a certain point in time, after maybe 6 months or so, to do whole walls, and we got into the papers, and it was rolling. And I was doing this while I was just studying. And that was really, really great, because I could pay for my studies and my driver's license and all those things that I didn't see how I was going to get that one done. And it went really well. I worked really hard, I gotta say, but I loved what I did, so it didn't matter. I don't know, was 17 or 18. By that time, 18, I guess. And I got the chance to start a ad agency, sort of, but I wanted to be an archaeologist, so I studied on. But because I already had to do that, I had to pitch all the time. Every new design, pitch, pitch, pitch. So I'm pitching for a long time already, so I know how to pitch. But I learned, before you pitch, you really need to prepare. And I pitched at school, I pitched for radio stations, for TV, I pitched for record studios, and a lot of clients. I pitched for all kinds of, from academic to the lower echelons of society. I pitched. There's one thing I always believe, and I believe that ever since I've seen and understood movies, is that you have to open with a smash, a kabam, and then the middle part can be a bit meh, but the end has got to be another kabam, like classical music has that a lot, and tango. That's what I believe also works when you pitch. So you come in with a bang, and then you give information in a concise but also in a storytelling way, so that people stay interested and they don't go to their phones. Because if they go to their phones, you're doing something wrong, right? You can, maybe it's their little trick, but even if it's a trick, you got something really great going on, they're going to forget about their trick. So I actually have never, ever ever had somebody grab for their phones. Ever in my life. So I don't know what it is, but I have seen other people pitching where the phone came out or some other thing. They were just reading something, right? I have seen that. I have been lucky because I have an interesting face. Anyway, so this, what I did was to prepare for this one is sort of dissect the Oren Klaff video interview with Brian. Now, Brian said some very interesting things also. It's Oren, of course, who stole the show. For me, it was like amazing. But Brian said some really interesting things also. So from that, I took like 6 elements that I wanted to use, but maybe if you look at them, you see different elements or more or less. The ones I took out was high status trumps low status. Very important to get that high status from the beginning. You have to be the prize, right? Focus on the pitch, not on the outcome. Stay in the moment, right? Be mindful when you're there. You will fail at many pitches, which is true. I think I fail 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, right? So be aware of that, but that doesn't matter because you learn from everyone, and you really do, and it's always fun to do, I think, and you get better as you go. So that's also important. Act as if it's impossible to fail, and be a little bit indifferent, because that makes you the prize. Being indifferent is wearing flip-flops and a bathrobe. And tell a story. So keep the public interested by telling a story. I know I'm not telling a story now. I'm just giving information, and you know what Oren Klaff said about that. Information has no. So again, very prestigious job at a bank. Many people have gone before me. I needed to make an impact. I had to punch sort of a dent in their universe. So they were thinking, oh, another guy coming in. I have to be different. It had to be a different entrance. It has to be different the way I did things. I knew I had to be either quirky or it has to be something else. So I did something else. I did what others did not do. I did not use a computer or anything digital. I used paper, pencil, and felt, and that was it. Markers, and they were very surprised by that. So I have to tell you, I'm creative. I can draw, and I can make pretty pictures, and I can give a presentation. That's no worry. I know how to get into that crocodile brain, and then from there to the midbrain to the neocortex, and that is a little bit of a trick, but because I can draw, that helps. By drawing, I don't mean I am Rembrandt. By drawing, I mean I understand how I should draw so that people pay attention. Okay? So if you don't have any artistic quality, that's fine. Because the simpler you draw, right? The simpler you draw, the better it is. Again, the simpler you draw, the better it is, the more effect you get. Why is this? Now, this is number 1. Tip number 1. Keep it stupid simple. Really, it is that. Keep it so simple that your 3-year-old niece could have drawn it. And that is really, really key. Why is that? Because we as humans have the tendency to see a picture or a drawing, very realistic drawing or a photograph of another person, right, as another person, as Marie or Lisette or, I don't know, your neighbor or anybody but not you. Whereas, if you draw super simple, and I'm talking about a round circle, 2 dots for the eyes, and a little line for the mouth, either smiling or not, then our brain starts to dive into that little, stick figure, right? And so that we are then becoming that figure. So we associate ourselves with that one. Okay, dissociation, association. We are in the story when you draw very simple, and we are outside of the story when you draw very realistically. Very important element. So when I say I can draw, I mean I know how to draw. Anybody can do that, right? You just need your hand and a pencil or a marker or whatever, and that's the way you should draw if you are making examples of how you are going to do something. Yeah, you want to make something clear, do it that way. Okay, very important that. All right, I have a pitch deck. Oh yeah, no, I forgot one thing. Having a pitch deck full of beautiful pictures and images and whatnot to sort of illustrate your story is actually not the way to go, according to statistics. If you see the two best watched TED Talks, they are from Ken Robinson and from Simon Sinek. Both these people do not use any imaging. No, none whatsoever. They're just there, them talking. I think Sinek has a sort of bullseye thingy, but that's it. Nothing else. And Ken Robinson has nothing else. And those are not 5-minute talks either. And they're the most captivating talks actually on TED. They grab you, they suck you in. And why that is, again, storytelling. And that is really, really where you need to get it from. And I'm going to show you right now what storytelling is all about. So, this is about storytelling, or better said, building your plot. And building your plot is, according to two people that I value highly, and not only me, that are storytellers, master storytellers. And one of them is Robert McKee. I went to his seminar in March. And the other is Paul Hughes. I have not been to his seminar, but you can see it on YouTube. It's wonderful. It's called 10 Meters of Thinking. I am going to interview him also for UX Real. And I think either one or both actually should be on Unreal because they're very interesting. I like him a lot. He says fuck a lot. So that's maybe something for Dan Pena. All right. Okay, before the interview, this is a takeaway. So pay attention. Before the interview, I arrive an hour early, at least an hour early. So I make sure I'm either in the building, in the bar, in the coffee bar, the coffee corner, or I am in the street where there's another coffee corner, but at least I am almost there within 2 minutes, right? And I get there an hour early. And I start doing the mental thing. So I get pumped up. I do this by going into the toilet. Got to come in. I put on some music, I don't know, whatever hypes you up, and I'm ready to go. Then what I do, if I'm anxious because I'm going like, oh, and I feel that in my belly, you know, the butterfly thingy, then and I get that every time, so no worries. What I do is, I always do this, and I've taught myself to do this, and I would urge you to do the same. Is I walk up to the lady behind the bar, to a lady or a man who is sitting alone, drinking coffee, or reading a newspaper, or a police officer outside, or anyone. I just walk up to them and I ask them, hey, do you like your job? And they would go, huh? What do you mean? And you would start a conversation, and you were interested in their work, in how they approach it, and what they like about it. Now, mind you, people love to talk about themselves. They really do. And if you can get somebody going on a rant, it will last forever. That's why interviewers have to interrupt interviewees all the time, because otherwise you just keep on blabbing away. And that's the same with if you go to somebody on the street or behind a bar. Now, you may think this is scary, but don't forget, if you're walking up to somebody, asking them a question, you're high status, right? You're up there, you put them down there. All of a sudden, you're the teacher, they're the student. So don't forget that and approach it that way. Go from a peacock breast in there and ask them questions. And then do it with another one. Do that and get that conversation going. I'm going to promise you, you'll be all warmed up and not anxious at all when you walk into that interview room. So that's a really neat trick. I do it all the time, every time. And it makes me more confident when I come in and I'm already warmed up. So that's really good. And I would do that if you were you. Storytelling. So Robert McKee, Paul Hughes. I went to his seminar. Let's talk about Robert McKee first. What he teaches is a lot, but he's got a model. Like, if you're any good, you've got a model. And he's got a model. You see the red here. It's called Building Your Plot. And it starts with protagonist, and it ends with object of desire. Now, this is his complete model. I've made it here. I just put it on the board so that I can erase stuff and put some stuff there, and I made it a little bit smaller because it doesn't have to be that big. This is like for a movie. But remember, a story is a movie, and we're talking Hollywood movies. So Romancing the Stone, maybe for some people a long time ago, but I don't know, any other standard Hollywood movie. And The Mummy, or God, you can see, huh? By the way, okay. So if you got a Hollywood movie, simple, straightforward Hollywood movie without too many twists, that goes from a protagonist. Who is the protagonist? So you introduce the protagonist. Now, your protagonist, you may think that is you, but it could also be your product. Actually, I think it is your product. You're selling yourself, but make your product the protagonist and make sure you're the best storyteller there is. So William Hurt, who did The Storyteller. He was telling the story about the protagonist. So that's a little bit how you should do it also. So you tell the story, you're the storyteller about your protagonist, but you're also the protagonist. So there's just like a double A there. So who is the protagonist? Introduce the protagonist. Now your first action, right, is the opening action of the show. Now remember Jurassic Park, or, well, any Spielberg movie, well-known Spielberg movie, could also be E.T. or those. That is typical Hollywood movie, but with a Spielberg sauce layer over it. And what makes that so interesting is that Spielberg always does the following, and Lucas does it also in the first Star Wars episode from '77, where it already starts with a spaceship going through space and then being shot at. So it's action right there. Same with Jurassic Park or Jaws. It's action. It opens with boof in your face. Right? It's ta-da! You're awake. Oh, wow. And that is the moment that you're in the movie. And it's got to take a lot for you not to stay in there for a long while because you're curious. You are between expectation and results when that happens. So that's very important. So your first action is, in this case, you coming in and the way you hold yourself, the way you introduce yourself, and what you're carrying with you. That would be your first action right there.
Now, in 5 seconds, and I will, 5 seconds, people are onto you. They already made a judgment about you. That's what Oren also says, and that's very true. 5 seconds, that's all it takes. They know who you are and what you do. For them, right? So they have a mental model as psychologists. A mental model is their expectation of who you are and what you are not. Because they looked you up, they went on your website, or they read your letter, or whatever. So they already built some kind of expectation model in their head. That's what people do. And then the moment you come in, that expectation model of theirs is going to be matched with what they get from you. Your body language, the way you dress, what you're wearing, what you're coming in with. And that is what needs to be, what's the expectation of them about you. We're not talking about your product, we're talking about you. You sell yourself. Now, the expectation and result, again, they have an expectation about two things, you and your product. But if this doesn't match well, not in a good way, I mean, then you already lost half the battle. So if you come in pumped up, hyped, and you're confident, right? And that's you achieve that by coming an hour early and talk randomly to people and asking them questions. And going into a private room, putting on your favorite music and getting pumped up. That's one way to achieve it. There's more ways, but that's one way. I think Tony Robbins, before he goes on stage, jumps on a trampoline for 10 minutes, so he gets all hyped and pumped up. People like high energy people. They're So if you come in slouching, not good. If you come in, hey guys, here I am. What are you doing? You look good. You look healthy, tan. You got good to go. Half the battle. Expectation and result. And there's this gap where it's got to happen. So it's the bridge, you have to overbridge this in your story. So you come in, and in my case, I had that. I looked apart. This is exactly the picture I sent them in my cover letter or on my website. This is what I'm wearing. This is how I look. When I come in, they see the same thing. That's fine. The oddball is the bag I'm carrying. The oddball is I'm not using a computer, but I'm using paper. And those are little things, but it's enough to set them off in a good way. And I'm bumped up, right? So then we get a conflict here. See, so we go to the second action, we get a conflict. The conflict could be me saying something that they don't like. In this case, to get that high status, I say, guys, I'm here. I know we have an hour, but actually, I've put together some kind of presentation. I actually know you want to ask me questions, but is it okay if I just take the lead in this? The first 15 minutes won't last longer, and I'll just show you exactly what I'm made of. I think you're going to like the presentation, and after that, we can see whether or not I'm a good fit for you, and you are a good fit for me. Now, that is conflict, because they're not used to that at all. They're the ones behind the steering wheel, right? They're the ones in control. I'm switching the tables on them. I'm coming in, I'm very friendly, I'm pumped up, I'm hyped, I'm peacocky. They see that I'm sort of, and then I do this on them, and never have I heard anybody say no. Well, maybe halfway one woman. Those people are there, and you got to respect that, and then you just go with that flow. But it happens very rarely. Usually people are curious, and they like somebody who takes control and who's giving them a show. So that usually works, and that is the conflict there. So I take control. I'm telling them I'm gonna present instead of them asking me boring questions. And remember, they're there with that sheet and they're writing everything down. Now they're gonna lay that. They're gonna sit back, have a coffee, and I'm gonna present. So that's the conflict right there. And then I take a risk. You have to take some kind of a risk. So that is a risk already, because somebody could say no, although they hardly ever do. And then they also, what they do is they're like I said, they're curious. So I grab my bag and I grab all my pitch deck and the way I set that up, and I will show you in a minute. that is so interesting to them because they don't see that, right? They see laptops. And when I do that, their expectation levels actually don't rise or they don't lower. They're just going all over the place. They don't know what to expect anymore, right? So I opened the Red Sea. So they don't know what to expect. It's bare ground. I can build on it. My carte blanche. That's what I'm creating right there. And it almost always works. The risk is very important because I have to take a risk to keep it interesting. The risk I'm taking is I always say something controversial. For example, a lot of times there's a technology guy or girl at the other side because companies feel that tech has to be in on it. One of the first things I have, one of my first slides that you'll see, is technology is unimportant. No way that I care about technology. In fact, technology, you wait for the rest. Now that's a risk because the other guy at the table may go like, hey, well, wait a minute, I think technology is really important, and what's this? And hey, right? So that's a risk right there. And that's my second action. Now, you can fill it in the way you feel you can fill it in, but that's what you have to do. Now, this is according again to Rob McKee, so I follow his method. It's not my method. But it works. At least I think it works. And it feels good. I think that's more important than anything. I love to pitch. The gap. Third action, you can go to a fourth, you can fifth, and it's always that conflict you have to build in. Now, how you fill that in is up to you. Now, be creative. Watch movies. See how they do it. Make a movie out of it. Make it interesting. See, he goes on and on and on to the end of the line because that's where the object of desire is. Now, the object of desire works both ways. It's your object of desire, which is them saying, hey, yes, I'm going to give you the 100 grand to build your idea, or I'm going to record your music, or yes, you can do that gig, or you've got the acting job, or whatever it is that you're pitching for. And the object of desire for them is, hey, this is the right person for us, because they are looking for somebody, right? It's not like they're rejecting everybody because they have nothing to do all day. They're really looking for the right guy, you or girl. You have to make sure that you make it clear to them that you're the right guy. Now, pitch deck. A pitch deck is something that does two. It's like sheet music for a violinist or pianist. It keeps you on track. It gives you the rhythm, the right pace, and you make sure you say everything because there's no other way. You don't forget. It's your little scenario. So according to this, you build a pitch deck. According to this, not Paul Hughes, but Paul Hughes also, I'll show you later. But according to this, you build your pitch deck. And then you can only follow this. And they're still listening, right? Because you ask them for 10 minutes or 15, and you say, yes, don't make it too long. Keep it short, 10 minutes max. And make sure your body language is good. Be acting way, but also, again, depending on the country where you are, you sort of have to level out what's best there, or maybe even the type of pitch you're going to. That's up to you. But for me, my pitch deck will give me the handles, the steering wheel, that I cannot take a detour or go into the wrong road. I always stay here or there, and even if somebody asks me a question, they cannot lead me astray because my pitch deck is right here. That's why I am. And that's very important. Now I'm going to show you my pitch deck. Just wondering if I'm going to do it from here or if I'm going to do it from there. And I will I'm going to do it from there. No, I'm going to do it from here. And I'm going to just set up the camera differently. So I'll see you in a minute. You enter the room, and I have my bag with me, right? So these people are the one interviewing you are on that side of the table. And then I'm here, and the table's wider or whatever, and I bring this baby with me. Now, this looks ridiculous. But I bring it anyway, and the first thing I get out is this one. Now they're over there looking at what in God's name this thing is. I just leave that there, like I don't care, and I see how that works. I unpack it. So this is an experience in itself. So if I unpack it, I put it down, and when I put it down like this, people already have a good idea of what this is, right? So they go, oh, okay. And then I go through the rest. So I securely packed everything in here so I can take it out in order. And then I take out my pitch deck, right? But they're standing over there, so I would be facing it over that way. But for us, I'll just face it over this way. I'll be doing that. Well, that doesn't matter. So that, then I take out my little green book. This is the right one here, right? Because we're telling a story, remember? So I'm taking off this jacket. It's getting a bit warm under these lamps. So that's, take out my sketch block, place it underneath. I have my second pitch deck, which I also then put down. And still, they don't ask questions, they're just looking at me unpacking this, like some kind of magician, taking things out of that bag. And then I take this one out. Now, these are like presents under the Christmas tree. You see them looking, what the hell, what is he doing? That's what makes this so much more valuable than a computer screen. Because you only see the computer, right? What's on the inside you don't see. But now you get everything, you pull it out on the table, and the magic starts. So I'll wait for later. This is Paul Hughes thing. Now I start off by introducing me. So the protagonist in this case, the protagonist is I. I am the protagonist. Not what I'm selling. The idea that I'm selling, the product that I'm selling is not the protagonist. I'm the protagonist. And I start telling them about my days when I was into graffiti, how I made all these things, and how I was then hired by the council of the city of The Hague to brighten up downtown city. All these blinds were always sprayed over, it was always ugly, and then I had a lot of work and a lot of income spray painting all these with graffiti type of things, all these blinds downtown. And the moment that we got coverage in newspaper, that is when we got a lot of work, and I got the opportunity to start an ad agency. But I wanted to be an archaeologist, so I just did not do that. I did not go into that. But remember, we did not have a lot of money, and I wanted to be an archaeologist, and I wanted to do this, and somebody had to pay for it, right? And my mom couldn't pay for it, so this is how I paid my way through college, basically. And I never stopped. So I've pitched since I'm 17, and I still do it today. And I've refined my methods, but it's always been the same. First scene, object of desire. In the middle, there's this bunch, right? Cookie on top, cookie on the bottom, and in the middle there's the fudge. So that's what I do. It gives them a bit of a history, a bit of idea, tell them about where it came from or whatever, about the protagonist being me. So that's, you build this up nice and slowly, and you put that away. Then I start talking about, the other protagonist, because this is what it's about, right? So I have the cover of my book here, which I tell them about, a nice plug, which I tell them about that, I'm writing a book right now, I'm making sure they understand, that you understand what these things are. They may ask questions about any one of those, so be prepared to answer those. And I put in the middle the experience of things. We're moving into the Internet of Things, and there's got to be some kind of experience of things. So that's where all this comes in. And not only that, a lot more. I put that away. I go into, well, this is the agenda, these 5 points and of items, and then I go into this, and you can play around with it. And this is basically James Altucher's idea, idea 6 idea, where he says, you get 2 items, you get in the middle somewhere, and oh, that one fell off, and then you, so what was that? There. it's always, so this time it's got brand experience and product experience. Well, how can you, put those together? How can you, and build up the experience of a brand and of a product? Well, I talk to them about that, brains over processes, and then I come into what we call the conflict of the story, right? So I'm going to say something, so I was all on wow, hello, wow, happy, happy. Then I go like, no, technology does not rule anything. Technology is wrong, and that could be a big conflict, because there may be somebody, like I said, at the table who loves technology. And then I show them this. This is my pitch deck. It's important for me. I'm going through it quickly because for you have a different pitch deck. But maybe something like this could also be interesting for you, where you show the business needs, which is the people at the other side. These are your needs. I understand them. They have to be met. The user needs, people who buy and use it, need to be met. And there's a sense of technology there. And then I say, this is the sweet or soft spot in the middle. Now, this is not my idea. This is from IDEO, sort of. So, but I use it to to tell people that I understand this, right? So when they say, do you gear more towards technology, you say, no, neither one or the other. It's always for the sweet spot, and you should have something like that to a model. It's another model, right? So the models are important, like Peter Sage says. Then I'm showing the Titanic, where if technology would be submissive to the vision, then it would have arrived in New York, whereas technology overrode. Is that past tense of override? The vision, and well, obviously this is what happened. I get chuckles on this slide, whether I put it on a big screen or like this. People sort of like it that it's straight up. It wasn't like this, of course, but you get the picture. Then I go into the next story, right? So from the Robert McKee thingy, we just have a gap, and then from that gap I go into this was the conflict risk. So I'm taking a risk and I'm looking at technology, dissing the technology actually. Usually not good, but it shows you have a good opinion and a vision about what your job should contain, or your product, or whatever it is you're doing, right? If it's a line of clothing or whatever. And I move into the third act, which is number 3, and I talk about innovation. Innovation or die. I show the Werner Vinge, very, very common Werner Vinge quote. I show him some graphs, one big, and I talk about these things to show them that I'm to the future, I'm up to date, I read up, I know what I'm talking about. It's not coming from nowhere, right? There's a coffee stain, I just leave it there. This one is being used a lot, but it's updated regularly, by the way. So this just shows that I don't care about how good it looks. I did not make it for them, I made it for me to present them. Then authenticity is where this one comes in. Now I grab this one, and then I show them what that contains. So this is 2 meters of paper, and I say, well, this is an image of 2 Van Gogh paintings. It was a museum. There was a museum who showed 2 Van Gogh paintings side by side, sunflowers. One was the original by Van Gogh, and the other one was painted in China in 2012. So that's a copy. Now how these Chinese paint all the copies of those masters. And then, I put this on the table and I roll it out, but for you guys, I just hold it up. And then I show them, well, this is how the museum, I don't know, which one's more valuable and why it is more valuable, and that actually people could vote on which ones they thought was the real one and which one was the fake one, and it was actually 50-50. So people can't even distinguish between the real one and the Chinese one. Which begs the question, why is one worth 30 million and the other $200 or euros? And that is really an interesting question, because people can't answer that question. But that's where I'm coming in. I'm saying, well, paint is paint, and a canvas is a canvas, but Van Gogh is Van Gogh. There is no other Van Gogh. There is no Chinese Van Gogh or Taiwanese Van Gogh. There's just one Van Gogh, and he's dead. And how come that his paintings are so valuable? Well, simply because he had a passion, and he followed his passion. He had a story, again, a story. And so I tell him about the story, that this is worth 30, that worth 200, and that's because we just love, we relate to stories, especially drama. And then I end up by showing that the Chinese person who made the copy does it for the money, and you see all these Chinese students painting a copy of some Russian, who is he? Vladimir Stasov, and you see how many there are, and they paint like $50 of canvas they get, and they paint 5 of them a week. It's just incredible how many of them are painted. So obviously, that's not going to be worth a whole heck of a lot, because we like stuff that has a better story. Now, if we'd have a story of that Chinese person who painted it, maybe it would be worth more. But so I talk about that, and I tell them. So see how different scenes. Now I go into a third act where I talk about service, and then I show them, and I put this upright on purpose that these are in a different position. So to, already you view the last one, you're curious about what this could be, but you're still here, and I'm telling you, well, Skype makes up. Why is that? I never let them read this. I don't know why, but Skype did a good job. Then it's a lot. These are mine candles. You're supposed to put a candle in it, but when the candle burns out, it breaks. The glass breaks. It fell off the mantle on the ground with the stub still burning. So that's quite dangerous, So I contacted them about it, and they just pushed me away, like, what idiot is going to burn a candle in a candle holder? Come on. And I'm like, what? Anyway, so that frustrated the ships out of me, and then now every time I give a presentation, I put them in, and they are in my book also, because I'm going to shame them, although they make beautiful products. And I end up with this one, which, look at this, it's just such a great picture. That is, of course, when the Beatles came to England to meet the Queen, or came to England, they were in England, of course, to meet the Queen, and then all these young girls try to bash through this line of police officers, and look at this guy here, and that one, they're really having a difficult time holding the line, but he's laughing. So I always point that out when I show this. This says experience, but it's in Dutch, and it doesn't really catch the word for me. Experience seems less than this word. I don't know what the equivalent is in English. But that is my pitch deck. That's how I go. And usually they're very interested. They have a very good idea of what I do and who I am. But there is a small danger to it when you do it like this. I'm being very specific. See, that's the thing. I'm being very specific, and that is why that's because I want to be sure that I get what I want and they get what they want. I don't want there to be confusion. If I just leave it there, like I said with the face, 2 dots for an eye, for the eyes, and a circle for the head, and then a line for the mouth, you start interpreting that. Your mind starts interpreting it, filling it in. And this is my realistic face, the realistic face. So I wanted them to know, and I want anybody to know where I'm coming from, what my core competence is, where I'm good at, what I focus on, and not that they think, oh, maybe you can program also, and then leave that there and expect that from me. I want to give the right expectation, and that's why I do it like this. You can also just let the imagination go and not do it this detailed, but that's up to you. I can tell you that the question I got from them was, oh, but this is then all you do? And I then answered, no, I do a lot more. But I just want to make sure that you understand this is, for me, the bulk. This is the most important stuff for me. Understanding your users, understanding the brain. And after that, actually, it's just work. It's drawing, sketching, making wireframes, making flows. I understand that. That's work. This is understanding. This is understanding that you need to know about people. You cannot fix a car if you don't understand how an engine works. And that's the same with this. So if you don't understand people, how in God's name are you going to make something for them that works? I don't see it. But not everybody believes that. Now, when you do this, don't lie, don't deviate, be real and true, because the pitch will give you what you want, or at least it'll give you what you pitched. So if you put everything and honestly in your pitch, that is what you present to the people there. They will give you feedback on that. If you lie or deviate or put some sauce over it, or don't tell the complete truth, all those things, you will get less back from that. So be mindful on the pitch, not on the outcome. So don't manipulate the outcome. This is my advice. Of course, you do whatever you want, but that's something I wouldn't do. The good thing about a pitch deck also is it's like sheet music. My second pitch deck, which is this one, a whole lot of cards, and I hardly ever use it, but it keeps me on track, and I know for sure that I can say this, and then I have to say that, and then I talk about that, and that is a good story. So I don't go from the conflict to the protagonist's explanation to expectation and conflict, right? So I go along the line of the story, so and the pace. I keep a good pace because of it. Now, what you want to do is whatever your method of pitching is. Now, you don't have to do this. I guess there's a few things you can take out of it, and you just make your own thing out of it, because if you're pitching music, of course, obviously, it's going to be different than this. But if you're pitching an idea, you would want to do this, because you would then have two protagonists. You want to explain to the people, right? You're selling you, like Brian said, you're selling yourself, but you're also selling your idea. And those you can see in the story as two separate entities. And you just have two protagonists, and you make sure that they're together, but they all, like Laurel and Hardy, they have their own characters, but they're one. So that's like you and your buddy, which your buddy, not body, but buddy, and it's like Laurel, Hardy, or the other way around. There's only one last thing I want to talk about, but I will not elaborate, and that is cognitive biases. Tai Lopez talks a lot about those, and he also talks about the Lollapalooza effect, the Charlie Munger Lollapalooza effect, where Charlie Munger identified like 70 or 60 or 80 cognitive biases that we as humans possess, and is really worth the while to work with cognitive biases. And now I have 3 of these cognitive biases right now, and one is social proof. For example, I have the in the cards, I have those things. Now, social proof is what Amazon does, but not every web store does that actually. That is just simply saying, this many people bought this product, and they rated it with 4 stars, right? With 4 stars, and look how good it is. And then you have some reviews. So ratings and reviews, look, all these people who are not specialists, they're just people like you and I, they rated this a 5. Well, wow, it's got to be good. Like Netflix has the star rating on movies, and you know what I'm talking about. Well, that's big cognitive bias. It's called social proof, and you can work with it, but that before you enter, because then you raise or set the stage for the expectation of the people at that side of the table. So your social proof would be on your website, in your cover letter, maybe in your talk, whatever. But you show them that you know people, that you've done business with people, that gives them a sort of confidence that you're not green. The second one is associations, very important. I'll talk to you about it later. And something like the gambler's fallacy is also something you can really use. Look them up, make use of them. If you set up your pitch right, like a story, like a book, or a movie, a Hollywood movie, not a very difficult one, simple like Romancing the Stone or Star Wars or First Night, those classic Hollywood stories, or maybe even like Jaws, then you will always pitch right. You will always do it correctly. If you understand psychology a little bit, how people work, the people on that side of the table, if you've done it yourself once, you know, then make sure that high status over there, you turn that around by coming in and say, hey, how about I present, and then you ask questions. High status, right there. Okay, hope somebody likes this, can use it, use something of it. I personally, it works for me very well, and it gives me the feeling that I'm in control. And I guess that's what you'll want when you're pitching. And I'm not nervous, which is another good thing. You know, if you're confident, you look better. Simple. Okay, bye-bye.